Hi, and welcome back to our Tales and Tales Summer Library Program. This week we're going to have a big adventure at night, in the dark. We're going to find out about animals that are active at night. They're called nocturnal animals, and that means that they are only active in the nighttime, and they sleep in the daytime. Some of these animals are raccoons. Raccoons are nocturnal. They stay awake all night long. A leopard, koala. There are many animals, gecko, many animals that are nocturnal. Aardvarks, fox, and these animals sleep in the daytime and they hunt and feed at night. But some animals are out and about in the day as well as at night. Tigers and other big cats hunt mainly at night, and smaller cats like to do the same. The cat's eyes shine brightly in the dark. Kangaroos are mostly night animals, although they sunbathe in the daytime. So some animals can be out in the daytime and the nighttime. So this week we're going to talk about night animals, or animals, what they do at night. This is your craft this week. It's an opossum, and that is one of the nocturnal animals we'll be reading about today. We're going to read Armadillo at Riverside Road. It's by Laura Gates Galvin and illustrated by Katie Bradham, and it's published by Soundprint Books. And an armadillo is one of the nocturnal animals we're learning about today. You see the armadillo? A long summer day comes to an end as the sun slowly melts into the treetops. Silver maple leaves dance in their branches in a warm, gentle wind. The sky is painted deep shades of red and orange, a sign that nighttime is near, and soon there will be relief from the Texas heat. Deep in a burrow behind the white house on Riverside Road, Armadillo wakes from a long day's sleep. Can you see him in his burrow? A breeze tickles Armadillo's leathery ears as she pokes her head out of her den. She pauses to feel for vibrations from footsteps nearby. All is quiet. It is safe for her to come out. With strong legs, she pulls her body out of her hole. Then she tiptoes through the tangle of blueberries and roses that hides her home. She is an odd sight, a stout little animal covered in a shield of armor. Can you see her with her shield of armor? Armadillo walks her funny walk, nervous and jerky across the yard. With her nose to the ground, she plows through the dirt in hopes of finding a delicious bug or a millipede. She gobbles a few crickets and moves on, teetering on four stubby legs with her long, armored tail trailing behind. She snuffles and snuffles and sniffles and snuffles, looking for her meal. All of a sudden, Armadillo stops. Something under the soil smells delicious. With her sharp front claws, she digs a small hole and uncovers a feast of ants. Holding her breath so she won't breathe in the dirt, she probes the ant's nest with her muzzle. Armadillo reaches into the nest with her long, sticky tongue and brings a small mound of ant larvae into her mouth. Like a steam shovel, she works her tongue back and forth until the entire nest is devoured. The ants were good, but not enough to satisfy Armadillo's hunger. She pushes her nose back into the ground and continues hunting. Not far from Armadillo, a coyote lurks behind a swing set. He greets the rising moon with a howl. Armadillo's hearing is poor, so she doesn't notice the threatening call, but the coyote notices Armadillo. With slow, careful steps, he creeps up behind her. Armadillo catches a glimpse of his shadow cast by the moon. Surprised, she bucks straight up into the air. As the coyote jerks back, startled by Armadillo's sudden move, she runs from him with amazing speed. The coyote chases her, staying close behind. Can you see how the armadillo jumps straight up in the air? Armadillo flees through a thorny thicket. Her armor protects her from the prickly plants. The coyote tries to follow, yelping as the sharp thorns stab his skin. Quickly, he backs out of the shrubs and runs around them, looking for Armadillo. She is nowhere to be found. She has escaped the coyote. Armadillo quickly runs to a nearby stream and hurries in. She sinks to the bottom like a stone underwater. As she comes up on the far bank, the coyote spots her. He dashes to the stream and leaps across. In a flash, he catches up to her. Just as Coyote opens his jaws to take a bite of Armadillo, she disappears into the ground. She has found safety in one of her many burrows. Armadillo stays underground as the coyote paces back and forth above her. Waiting for Coyote to give up, she falls asleep. See the coyote jumping at her and her going into the burrow. Late in the night, Armadillo awakens. She is hungry again and climbs out of her burrow to catch more food. She discovers many insects roaming near the stream. Walking alongside the water, she eats every bug in her path. Soon the moon disappears and it's time for Armadillo to go back to her burrow. She follows the stream a short distance until it runs under a bridge. Armadillo steps onto a dark, hard surface. She digs her claws into the strange ground. It doesn't budge. Armadillo has wandered onto the road. Confused, Armadillo takes a few steps and tries digging again. Her claws only scratch the pavement. Suddenly, the silence of early morning is broken by an approaching roar and two beams of bright light. Whoosh! A blast of air hits Armadillo's face as the car speeds by. The force of the air knocks her over and off the road. She scrambles to her feet and finds herself near the stream again. Armadillo walks to the water's edge. As she steps in, the gentle current carries her away. With deep breaths of air, she inflates her body like a balloon and floats downstream. When the water becomes more shallow, she digs in her claws into soft mud and pulls herself out onto the opposite bank. As the sun begins to rise, Armadillo hurries through the thicket and across a familiar backyard. The sky is streaked with pink and purple clouds. A mockingbird greets the morning with a song. Deep in her burrow, behind the white house on Riverside Road, Armadillo settles into a soft bed of grass. As the August sun becomes brighter and the air becomes warmer, Armadillo grows tired. She closes her eyes for a long day's sleep. The end. I hope you enjoyed Armadillo at Riverside Road and some of the amazing things about the armadillo, that she could jump straight up in the air, that she could blow her body up so that she would float in the water, and that she lived in a burrow to protect herself in the daytime when she slept. Hope you enjoyed it. The next animal we're going to read about is the opossum, something that we're very familiar with here in the South. You've probably seen many possums in the road or walking outside. Did you know that The baby possums ride on the back of the mother possum, just like that. They climb up on her back for safety. So we have this little possum mama and baby right here. Also, that possums, when they're threatened or in danger, they pretend to be dead. You may have heard the expression, "Are you playing possum?" Just pretending something. And that's what that means. So our next book is Possums Harvest Moon, Words and Pictures by Ann Hunter. And this book was published by Houghton Mifflin and Company. Possums Harvest Moon. Possum awoke one autumn evening. Shining through the grass was the biggest, brightest, yellowest moon. "Oh," said Possum, "the harvest moon. What a perfect night for a party. One last dance in the moonlight before the long winter. A harvest soiree." Possum hung the grass with lanterns and berries. Then he hurried off to invite his guest. "Mice, mice," Possum cried at the meadow's edge. "Come to my harvest moon party." "We must gather seeds for the winter," said the mice. "We are too busy to come to your party." Next, Possum peered into a pile of leaves. "Come out, crickets," he cried. "Hop along to my party under the bright harvest moon." "We are tired from singing all summer," said the crickets. The night air is too cold now, and this leaf pile is so snug." So the mice say no, and the crickets say no. Down by the creek, Possum found Raccoon catching fish. "Dry your hands, old Raccoon," said the Possum, "and come to the last hurrah of the year." "Oh, I would," growled Raccoon, "but I must be good and fat for the winter. So much to eat, so little time." Possum followed the creek to the pond. "Frogs, frogs," Possum cried. "Come and sing and dance under the great, great moon. Come to my harvest soiree." "Too late, too late, too late," chorused the frogs. "It's time for us to go underground for the winter." Possum turned sadly toward home. He looked up at the twinkling sky. "Oh, fireflies, can you come to my party?" The fireflies twinkled silently back at him. "How could they work on such a beautiful night?" Possum asked. "How can they think of sleep in the moonlight? In such moonlight?" He put on his hat and sat alone, looking up at the great harvest moon. The great harvest moon rose higher. It shone down through the grass and under the leaves. It made every tired and busy creature pause. It was a night that made them dream of dancing, of eating and singing. Toes twitched and voices hummed. How could they possibly miss Possum's harvest soiree? Raccoon rousted his crony Rabbit. The crickets invited their cousins, the katydids. The mice brought the moles. The peepers hopped after the frogs. They hurried and scurried while the night was still young. Possum could hear the squeaking and scampering from all directions. And the guests arrived. They brought seeds and berries, fiddles and songs. All together they gazed up at the face of the great harvest moon. Rabbit and Raccoon settled in down by the food. They nibbled and nodded. "Never, never in all our years," they agreed, "has the harvest moon been so bright. No, never." Can you see all of the animals at the party? The great harvest moon party. The mice danced until the crickets played every jig twice, and the frogs grew hoarse from singing. The fireflies' lights flickered and dimmed. A cool breeze ruffled over the tired creatures. As the moon sank low, it was time for them to go home. Home to dens and nests, holes and burrows. Time for winter's long sleep. Good night, squeaked the mice. Great party, chirped the crickets. Until next year, growled old raccoon. Farewell, pipped the frogs. See you next year, said Possum. He waved until every last guest was gone. Possum curled up in his own snug home. He looked out to see the last light of the great moon peeking through the grass. Good night, yawned Possum. Good night. And that's the end of Possum's Harvest Moon.